Okay, go.
Okay. You guys want to stand and worship with us? Who am I that the highest king would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Realized He has ransomed me, His grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, He died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Oh, I am who you say I am. Yes, I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. All these pieces take our weakness. You set your treasure in jars of clay. So take this heart, Lord, I'll be your vessel, the world to see your life in me. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Ooh, oh, I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Ooh, oh, I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see you now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life. Oh, I can see you now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life.
Thank you, Jesus. We just pray, Jesus, that tonight, while we're all gathered here within your presence, God, that you're just able to come down and fill up our hearts with your word, your love, Jesus, and in hearing you through music and through word today, Jesus, I just pray that all of us are able to get to know you that much better, Lord. We just pray that you're able to let our eyes see clearly tonight, Jesus, and throughout the rest of the week, just allow us to know that you are here, Jesus, that you are with all of us each and every day, Lord, and we are just so appreciative of that, and we just give you all of our thanks, Lord. In your beautiful name we pray. Amen.
Amen. You may be seated. Woohoo! Oh, it's so heavy. Oh, that felt like Frodo there for a second. It's so heavy, Sam. I can't make it. Well, I can't carry the ring, but I can carry you. And you guys remember that moment? Epic. Sam picks him up, goes up the mountain, and I gotta take this dumb thing off. Okay. Woo! How you guys doing? Good. It's good to see you all here. Wonderful. It's like days away from Halloween. Wow. Does that feel weird? Does anyone feel weird about that? I don't know. It just seems like it should be, I don't know. I don't even know what day it is or what season it should be. It's just everything just seems really weird. So hopefully that's not just me. But I know I'm weird, but I'm just saying it's kind of weird. So, all right. Well, hey, we are talking about vibes, right? Emotions. We've been talking about vibes and emotions. Started last week. And last week we kind of talked about a general overall emotions and kind of what emotions are kind of what happens on the inside, obviously. And that one of the things we want to do is really start as Christians, as followers of Jesus, is to really start naming our emotions and figuring out why we're feeling the way we are feeling, and then kind of take ownership of that, but also not allow emotions to dictate and control our lives. And there's plenty of emotions out there that can do that. And so tonight we're going to talk specifically about anger. And as we're going through all of this emotional stuff too, one of the things I'm not saying to you is that you can't be emotional. Emotions are a great thing. I think God gave us emotions so that it just adds a richness and a wonderful flavor to life. And it's a great way of experiencing Him. I don't know, it's just like joy and laughing and just everything that we can experience is really awesome. The downside of that is there's also deep sorrow and loss and loneliness, and there are a bunch of negative emotions. And so tonight we're talking about anger. Have any of you guys been in a vehicle with somebody, or, wait, how many drivers do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Have you guys, we got 5 drivers. You guys ever experienced road rage where you just absolutely lost it? All the time? No, no, no. We got no and then 1 all the time. Okay. How many of you guys have been in a car with a parent or a friend or an uncle or somebody and they just came unglued in road rage? Yes? Hey, put your hand down, Stephen. Just kidding. But yeah, road rage is a real thing, man. It is. People get shot, over the crazy things. We started watching this. Actually, I think we watched the whole preview. But it's this movie with Russell Crowe. He's the actor from. This movie's called Unhinged, and it's basically road rage, and he just comes literally unhinged. And I don't recommend watching the movie because it's like basically someone just getting really angry and killing people. But don't do that. Anyways, anger can be a crazy thing. Okay, how about this? Let's get for if you guys haven't driven before or whatever, or maybe you haven't experienced road rage with somebody else. How many guys have experienced loser rage? Meaning either you or someone you know lost a game or a sporting event or lost any kind of competition, and that person came unglued. And you're just like, dude, it's not worth it, yeah? Okay, first of all, how many of you guys have done that? Yeah? Didn't you guys know what Tabletop Simulator is? It's this digital version where you can play board games online, and they actually have a feature where you can flip the table. So, like in a board game, you're losing, like in checkers, you're about to get your butt whooped, and so you just take it, and you do that. Yeah, okay, so those are all true things. Those aren't good things, all right? So rage is a real thing, and it can, on different levels, really control us. And it's funny sometimes when we talk about anger, how small the things are that can actually set us off. And the more we give into that, the more we set a pattern of giving into the anger, the more it just, like I talked about last week, there's this kind of like this feedback loop where we get angry, and then it makes us more angry on the inside, and it makes us more susceptible to anger, and so it takes less to actually trigger our anger, which makes us get angry more, which kind of solidifies in us more that we get angered easily, and then so it's just like this loop. It goes like this, and all of a sudden, it doesn't take much until we're really ticked off, right? So, and the interesting thing about anger is that it doesn't always look the same. So tell me if you guys think about this. So we talked about people coming unglued, right? So there's that just shouting and beep, 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 bleep, 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 people, cussing and all that kind of stuff. So there's this, even some physical violence. There's that kind of rage. But you guys ever seen someone who, when they get mad, it's really scary because they don't say anything? They give you the silent treatment, and it's like the rage is burning in them, and so it's kind of like they call it passive aggressive. And one of the things we do is we can manifest our anger with just being that. It's like we don't have to say anything, but we're really ticked off. And what it does is it gives us control of the situation. So I'm mad, and I'm not going to talk to you, and I'm going to hold all the cards. And I just want you to know I'm mad, and I want you to be afraid, and I'm not going to say anything. I just want you to feel like at any moment I'm going to come unglued on your face, right? So that's anger, because it's got this whole range of expression. And so either way, anger is an incredibly powerful emotion, right? And not all anger is bad. We need to think about that too. There are many things that actually are, and we're seeing them in our culture, that are worth getting angry over. Domestic violence, racism, poverty, unfair treatment of people groups, sex trafficking, whatever it is, there are things that they should kind of tick you off, right? So that's okay. So not all anger is bad, but anger can be a very, very intense emotion. If we let it, it will start dictating and controlling us. So we need to figure out how to do that. So what we do with our anger and how we keep it from being destructive anger is what we want to talk about tonight. So there's this guy in the Bible. His name is James, and he's the brother of Jesus, okay? So Jesus was born first, and then so he had a whole bunch of siblings, and so he had this brother named James. And James didn't actually become a follower of his big brother, of Jesus, until after Jesus died and rose again. So during that whole time, he's kind of like, I don't know, I'm not sure what he was doing, but he wasn't following Jesus until after. But after Jesus died and rose again and ascended into heaven, James became an amazing follower of his brother, of Jesus, and started to actually lead the church in the kind of the epicenter of Christianity. It's a city called Jerusalem. Many of you heard that. It's over in Israel. And so Jerusalem. He's a church leader there. And so he writes this book, actually writes a letter, and he's wrote it to some Jewish Christians. I want to read that today. So this will be the scriptures there, Aiden. So the first one is, he writes this: who is wise and understanding among you? Is that up there? Oh, nailed it. Okay, so who is wise and understanding among you? So what he's saying, if you're wise, he's asking, if you are wise, what does that mean? He's asking this question: who's wise and understanding? So what does it mean to be wise? I think that a wise person is someone who kind of connects. He understands that all life is connected, and that they actually learn from their mistakes, right? So a wise person understands that actions have consequences, that if I do X, that Y is going to happen, and sometimes Y is really bad, or, those kinds of things. And then, they kind of grow, and they start understanding how to navigate life, and that life is connected, and it's not all just these independent things that happen, but there is a flow and a process to life that we can't really fight against, and we need to learn to look. Anyway, so he says that. Then he goes on to say, let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in humility that comes from wisdom. So what he's saying is, if you say you're wise, then let it show in your life by doing good things. Let it show by walking in humility, being humble. Okay, now you guys probably heard humble hundreds of times, maybe in your life, I don't know. Maybe you haven't. But what does humble mean? What does it mean to be humble? And you're going to have to shout it out if you're wearing a mask. What does it mean to be humble? Anybody? Just shout it out. Don't brag. What else? What does it mean to be humble? Not elevating yourself above other people. Mm-hmm. What else? Small ego? Yes. You don't think about yourself as much as you think about others. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a definition that actually ties to what Matthew just said. It's not that you think less of yourself, you just think of yourself less. Ooh, stick that in your pipe and smoke it. No, don't do that. That's horrible. Anyways, so being humble is someone who sees them, to add to what you guys said, but someone who doesn't see themselves as an exception to the rules. Don't you love those people? It's like the rules are for everyone out there, but not for me. I'm above the rules because I'm awesome. That's not humility. Humble people do not think the world revolves around them, right? So some people really do believe that they are the center of the universe and that everything revolves around them. Well, I hate to tell you that, but that's not true. Okay? Another one is you believe that you deserve better treatment than other people. So for some reason, you're more special than everybody else, and so you should get treated better. You should get preferential treatment. That's a scary place, but that's not being humble, if you think that. And humble people don't see everyone else as a way to get what you want. So they don't use people. It's like, once again, you're more about thinking about the needs of others and serving. So anyway, so he says, wise people show this by being humble. If you call yourself wise and understanding, this will show in your life by being a humble person. And that's by what we just described. So let's go on to the next part. He says, but if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. So harbor means like you kind of let things stick around. It's like you hang on to them a little bit. And he's talking about the opposite, not the opposite, but definitely something that's, opposing humility, but bitter envy and selfish ambition. So that's all about me. That's kind of what it's talking about. You're envious of other people, and sometimes that can really get to where a person gets really nasty. It's like they're so jealous of what everyone else has that they just get kind of mean and just is no fun to be around because they're like, I deserve that. They don't deserve that. They didn't work for it. You know, their parents are this, that, or the other thing, and or I'm smarter than they are. How come they got a better grade? And, blah, 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 that kind of person. Don't be that person, okay? But if we harbor those thoughts in our heart, or we keep them up, or we kind of feed them, then what this is saying is don't do that. Don't boast about it or deny the truth. So what he's trying to say is if you start feeling like that, if you start feeling the things that are not humble, if you start getting that kind of that selfishness, or you're thinking about yourself all the time, or you deserve to be treated better, you need to call it out. You need to call yourself out and say, hey, that's not right. We have an easy time sometimes calling other people out, but sometimes this is saying call yourself out. Don't deny what's going on inside of you. And that's part of what this whole thing is we're trying to do with our emotions, is figuring out, hey, why am I feeling the way we are? What am I feeling? And I need to call it out. I need to address it and say this emotion is this, and then work with it. So then he goes on from there. It says, for where you have envy and selfish ambition, so where you have people harboring those things and all this envy and selfish ambition, baloney going on, there you will find disorder and every evil practice. So basically, when you find arrogant people or selfish, self-righteous people, you're going to find all kinds of other stuff going on, all kinds of other evil crapola, okay? That's what he's trying to say, is that sometimes this pride and this envy and this selfishness is kind of a cause or a root of all kinds of other things, including anger. So basically last week we talked about that, what's on the inside, what's going on in your heart, how your heart is what comes out, right? You can try to hide it for a while, but eventually it's going to come out, especially like if you're susceptible to road rage and you're driving, or if you're a loser rage, it's like what's inside is going to come out. So that's what we're trying to talk about, and James is trying to say to us, we need to deal with it. And if we see it, call it out and say, hey, we're going to deal with this in a healthy way, and we'll get to how we do that later. But we need to, otherwise it's just going to create more and more, and it just grows on itself, and you become a really not that nice person to be around, and you'll end up being really lonely. Okay, so then he goes on to it later on in this letter. He writes, what causes fights and quarrels among you? So this is a question he's asking them. What's causing all these fights? And I just want to throw that. What do you think are some things for you? What are some things that just like are triggers for you that tick you off? Or things that you just see around you that just people get ticked off at? Anything at all? Oh, a beep. Anything? You guys never get mad at anything? A video game? Yes. Losing at a video game? Or when it glitches? Stupid game! Yeah. Oh, man, I hear that so much at my house. It's hilarious. Yes. Animal Crossing and Minecraft hackers. Okay. Yes. What else? Anything else ticks you off? What? Hypocrisy. So someone says, hey, dude, you need to do this, and then they don't. Yeah, that'll tick you off. What? Middle school girl drama, yes. Yeah, that's enough to tick anybody off. Either that or make you just sit in a fetal position, sucking your thumb and crying, because it's like school boys. And then so can like 50-year-old men and 42-year-old women. And you know what I mean? We can all be mean, but some of them just are categorized as just really mean. All right. So what about things like parents with unrealistic rules? Oh, but that nobody has parents like that in here. And if you're a parent watching right now, yeah, you're good. All right. Younger siblings who won't stop being annoying, right? Careful. We got young siblings in here. What about friends that don't text you back? You ever been ghosted? Yeah, it's like, what? Yeah. A stepdad that acts like he's always right, or a real dad, one of the two. My boys are like, yep, that ticks me off. People with obnoxious TikTok accounts. You ever like, where they just like, it's like, really, what? I just don't get it. And then once again, losing at anything, right? Sometimes it can take us off. So he's asking this question, but there are all kinds of things that anger can come from, right? But he says, so we answer this question, and this is the thing he's trying to make us understand. Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? What? What does that mean? What he's saying is a lot of times the reason we get ticked off is because of what's in us. And this is hard to hear sometimes. So what makes you angry a lot of times comes from what's in you and not this external thing. And you might be thinking, wait a minute, that's not true. Let's just talk about it for a second. So as long as we think that the problem is somebody else or something else, so their behavior or this event or their character or the mistake they made, we won't deal with the problem of anger that's actually in us. So I want you to be clear that there are things that people do to you that will tick you off, okay? But what we got to do is not be the kind of people that blows it all off on the other person or whatever. It's like we never own what's in us. And so that's what James is trying to say to us. So when it comes down to, earlier he talked about, this selfish envy and all of that. If you get to the root of your frustration or anger, a lot of times we need to admit that the problem isn't us, and a lot of times it's because we're not getting what we want. We don't get what we think we deserve. So when people aren't acting the way you think they should, when you don't get what you want, or when you don't get what you deserve, we oftentimes will get ticked off. So what do you do? Well, this is an interesting thought. This is something that we can do. We can try to start, and we need to do this, start reframing the question. I know a lot of times we can think, yeah, but they did this, and it was really horrible, and it just made me angry. Okay, it's possible, but I think what we need to do is instead of start saying and worrying or saying things like this, so he's being selfish, she's being annoying, they're being rude, or I lost because they cheated. What we need to stop and say when we feel this rage coming up into us and go, okay, wait a minute. Ask yourself, what do I feel like I'm missing out on? What do I feel like I'm not getting in this moment? Because when we do that, what happens is, and once again, we need to understand that there are circumstances that upset you, that should upset you, right? Like, someone treating you unfairly. So I'm not saying that we just kind of, whatever. But a lot of times in the midst of all of that, we need to ask ourselves and deal with the rage that's rising up in us so that it doesn't control us. So we need to say, maybe I am part of the problem. I'm not the whole problem, but maybe part of it is what's inside of me. And the reason I'm so angered by what they did is because of what's going on in me, what's happening in me. And you need to own your stuff. And once again, I'm not saying that you have to just, if someone's treating you unfairly, that you just sit there and, let them do it. But I think what you can do, though, is make sure that what others are doing doesn't cause anger to rise up in you that takes control of your life. Because then what you're doing is you're giving them control of your life. We need to learn to deal with anger and what's going on inside of us. And it's tough. We need to own what you can in the situations that are making you angry. What part of that can you own so that anger doesn't get a hold of you? All right. So what's your guys' relationship with anger? This is kind of what you ask yourself. So what's going on inside? And the only way to beat it is to deal with it like Jesus did and to follow Jesus' example. Of course. That's, and I understand, once again, sometimes when you're angry in situations, you are not necessarily the whole problem. But I think if you're humble enough, you can recognize that you might be part of the problem. And even if it's like it is completely, unjust, we still need to not allow anger to rise up in us in a way that controls us to where we start getting, like bullying's a great example. Someone's bullying you, and the last thing you want to do is allow the anger and rage in you to start rising up into you to the point of hatred, where the anger starts controlling you, because then they're kind of hitting you twice. Then they're taking you out 2 times. Not only did they do that act of bullying, which was unjust and wrong, I'm not saying it's right, but then you're allowing them to have this lingering effect in your life, and that anger starts controlling you. And then a lot of times what happens is you turn around and become the bully. You start doing the very thing that was done to you. And that's what we're saying. Don't go there. Let's deal with this anger and this rage. So Jesus said no to anger, to all kinds of stuff. Jesus did get angry, by the way. There was one time where he actually made a whip, and he went into the temple, and he started just thrashing people. It's kind of cool. But Jesus was able to, completely control his anger, and he had a righteous anger. So anger is not necessarily bad. It's just when it starts controlling you, that's when it's bad. And I'm not saying make a whip and go beat people, by the way. That'll get you thrown in jail, and it should. But this is what Jesus did. So think about Jesus. You need to understand that Jesus is God, right? So he's in heaven. There's no reason for him to leave heaven or do anything else. He's in heaven, and he does this. Jesus, who, being in the very nature God, so Jesus, who is God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness. So Jesus completely emptied himself. He was completely human and completely God at the same time, but he didn't use his godness to his advantage. He came to serve us. He let go of all of these rights and all of these things that he had. If anyone has the right to be treated better than anyone else, it's Jesus, okay? Because he's perfect. He's God. But he didn't do that. And before that, this is a letter that this guy named Paul wrote. But before that, he says, "Therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love." So what he's saying in that is that if you want anger, or if you don't want anger to control your life, be like Jesus. Follow him, seek him. Jesus walked in humility. And we need to ask him for help. If you feel like rage is overtaking you, you need to ask Jesus for help. So the first thing we do, like I said earlier, is you got to start owning it. You got to start seeing anger rising up in you. Then you kind of ask yourself, okay, why? What do I feel like I'm getting robbed of in this moment? And why is this anger taking over? And then we need to ask Jesus for help, because he is the perfect example. He walked in complete humility, and he came to serve, and he gave his life for us, completely thinking of other people, right? So we are told to be like him. And because of Jesus, and we kind of said this last week, because of Jesus, anger doesn't have to be the boss of you. Remember? We were saying that last week. Some emotion, fear. You ain't the boss of me. Fear, anger, whatever it is. They don't have to own you. They don't have to be the boss of you. And you can experience anger in a healthy way and not let it control you. So we're going to go into our small groups, but as we're doing it, in your personal circumstances, so what would it look like if you chose wisdom and humility more than you do? So if you chose to walk in humility like Jesus did, and remember we listed all these things, you guys said a whole bunch of stuff. Think about what that means. If you did that consistently, how would that change your life? All right? So, got the small group leaders. You guys go. So be back here in 15 minutes. 15 minutes. If any of my guys are here, which I don't know if they are, go with Kevin and Chandler. Right?